If you're someone who is easily offended by people marking all over their books, this video is not for you. Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jesse, and in today's reading vlog, we're going to be trying to become an annotation girly by following a booktuber's annotation guide. I'm not necessarily new when it comes to annotating books, but I will say I don't take it seriously when I decide to scribble and highlight all over my books. Like, I'm over here in the margins being like, LOL. Oh my gosh, no way. I am deceased. I wish I was joking, but joking I am not. I also just tend to highlight everything and nothing. If it's a pretty line, I highlight. If it's a laugh out loud kind of line, I highlight. If it made me feel something, I highlight. Not that there's anything wrong with scribbling all over my books, but I would love for my scribbles and highlights to make more sense. Now the question is, why? Why am I following an annotation guide today? One, of course I love an experimental reading vlog. I love trying new things. I love pushing myself to try new things. Two, I feel like it'd be fun to just like try somebody else's way of annotating, because obviously my way is just kind of a little bit sporadic, and I feel like there are so many people out there who have just like mastered the art of annotating and just have like very specific ways in which they do it. And I think it's just going to be cool to learn a different style of annotating. There could be things that somebody else is doing with their annotating that could really benefit my annotation style, my sporadic and all over the place annotation style. And lastly, I've been really thinking about the idea of like slowing down my pace when it comes to the books that I read. I'm someone who is constantly aware of the fact that like I don't have much time on this earth. Like, time is running out. I could die tomorrow. I could die in a week. I could be dead now and you're watching a ghost. Who's to say? So with knowing that I'm not going to be on this earth much longer, I spend a lot of my time just like tearing through books as much as possible, as fast as possible, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I don't think it's bad to like want to read a lot of books and want to read them quickly, to consume a lot of stories. Like, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But I do think that there is something special about like taking your time with the book, not feeling the need to rush through it, intentionally approaching a book with the mindset that you're going to take your time with it. There's just something special about that. The booktuber that I chose for this video is Plant-Based Bride. I will leave a link down below in the description to their channel along with the video that I am following. I bought every tool that she recommended in her video because I want to just like follow the tutorial to a T, but also I just want to be just like her in more ways than one too. Like, her vibes, immaculate. Her aesthetic, to die for. I'm dead, deceased, gone. Let's do an annotation tool haul. First up here, we've got the Tombow dual brush pen in 990. This is what she uses to highlight. What I typically use to highlight is a midliner pen. They're my favorite highlighting tool to use. In fact, it feels really strange to not be using them in this video, but I'm gonna give this a shot and see how it goes. Who knows? Maybe it'll change my life. Maybe it'll change my annotation game forever. Next up, we've got the tabs. Now, this is the thing that is the most out of my comfort zone. I don't personally love the look of these types of tabs and how they stick out. I actually typically use book darts, which are these like metal tabs that you can stick in the book. They don't stick out of the book and you can't see them unless you like flip the end pages to you. I actually really like the way that they look on the paper edge side, but I'm going to give these a try today and see how I feel. There are a variety of colors, which I really like and appreciate, and also just like a variety of styles, which I think is really fun. So I'm going to play around a bit and see how it goes. Finally, the last tool that she uses is this Pentel Hybrid Technica 0.3mm pen. This is definitely an area where I need improvement with my annotating because the pens that I use are never good. They always bleed through, so I'm excited to give this a try and see how I feel about it. The pen that I typically use with annotating right now is this Sharpie gel pen, and it's 0.7mm, but this is the one tool that I have that I don't recommend, so don't go buy this one. I will definitely do a full review on the tools that she suggests at the end of this process. In her video, she goes over 3 different levels of annotation in order to make it more approachable, but I'm skipping the first 2 steps and going straight to the pro level. I'm a little bit nervous. I should probably like work myself up to the 3rd level, but like I just want to go for it, give it my best shot, see how it goes. Let's go over what the pro level includes. First up, we've got a key, which I think will be really useful for me, especially like down the line when I come back to the book that I've annotated. To have a key to kind of like understand what my tabs even mean will be very helpful for me. From what I understand, you kind of start to create the key just like as you're reading the book, as you're getting a feel for the book, you start to understand what you're marking and why you're marking it, and you make note of that, and then eventually you like form a key. It also takes the regular highlighting and underlining to the next level, adding in circles, asterisks for emphasis, writing notes and reactions, whether it be a personal connection to the text, talking about a theme that is being explored, or taking different threads from the story and connecting them in the margins. Something something that she said in her video really stood out to me and honestly like just made me feel inspired and excited. She said, the book is not just talking to you, you're talking back. And that's just such a great way to put it. Like that just excites me. I love that concept and I'm excited to have that like at the forefront of my mind as I enter this book that I'm going to be reading for this video. Now she did mention at the end of the pro level section that you can take it up an even further level, which would be including a drawing, a doodle, a full-on painting. She said that she hadn't dabbled into drawing and whatnot, but I feel like I want to challenge myself to do this. I'm a little bit nervous because like obviously I'm not an artist by any means, but I just like love a challenge. If I can just get one like doodle or drawing in my book, I'll be satisfied. We're gonna give it a shot, see how it goes. The book that I've chosen to annotate for this reading vlog is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I've been meaning to read this for the longest time, and not to sound like annoying and pretentious, but I had this book before it blew up on TikTok, and then it blew up and got lots of hype, and I was like, well, now I can't read it. I need some time away from the hype, some separation from the hype so I can bring my expectations down. And I feel like finally the waters have settled around this book, so I'm ready to take it on, and I'm super excited about it. I also feel like this is a very approachable book to annotate because it's not very long. It's around 200 pages long, and I just feel like anything bigger than that would just be too intimidating. This book is about a coffee shop that offers its customers a chance to go back in time. We are following 4 people who are looking to take this opportunity, but it comes with a risk. They have to sit in a specific seat within the cafe. They're not allowed to leave the cafe, and they must come back before their coffee gets cold. And with that, it's time. I feel like I've been avoidant in doing this long intro, but it's finally time to grab myself some coffee, get the annotation set up, and get started. Let's get to reading. The first story and Before the Coffee Gets Cold, and it took me like 3 hours to read 57 pages, which is such a wild concept for me because I definitely do not take that long to read 57 pages normally, but just like the process of annotating definitely slowed down my pace, which is not a bad thing. In fact, I feel like I'm really enjoying just kind of like taking my time with this story. I feel like this story overall is just like a very slow moving one, so the fact that I am taking my time with it, I kind of am enjoying the fact that like my reading process is reflecting the overall pace of the story. Before I talk about my feelings on the first story, I do want to talk about the annotation process so far and how it's been, how I'm feeling about it. I'm actually really enjoying it so far. I did have a bit of a hard time kind of like finding my flow, and I still feel like I'm kind of just like underlining and highlighting random things. I also don't have a rhyme or reason to why I underline certain things and why I highlight certain things. Like I don't have a specific reason as to why I highlight something over underlining it, and vice versa. I don't have a specific reason why I underline something instead of highlighting it. But I also feel like over time I will gain a better understanding for like what I'm doing or like what I want to highlight, what I want to underline, because the more that you do something, obviously the more that you will understand it. I did have a few hiccups. I had to completely ditch this pen. I think because of the page quality, this pen just like does not work well. It's really hard to get it to actually show the ink on the page. And I get to the fact that this is a 0.3 pen, like it's going to be very light as it is, is. It was mostly making an indent on the page, and I just didn't want that to happen. So I had to just like go back to my Sharpie pen, which was fine, but like my Sharpie pen bleeds through and you can like see the markings on the other pages. I still haven't done a drawing. I've had the idea to do a drawing. Like, I feel like I could easily just do a cup of coffee, and that would be very fitting to the story. Now, my overall thoughts on the first story. I really enjoyed it. I will say that I felt like it took so much time like building up to the actual point of our main character going back in time, that when we got to the actual point where our main character goes back in time, it just was a little bit lackluster. Like, we really only spend like maybe 6 pages back in time. It felt like there was so much buildup and so much groundwork to getting to that point that when we finally went back in time, it just was rather underwhelming, to be honest. I really did like what happened in the past, but I think if you're somebody that goes into this book with specific expectations of it being kind of a time travel book about people facing things in their past, you're not going to love the way that it's done. Now, I will say that the positives outweigh the negatives for me. I do love the fact that every character within this book has purpose. Every character that is introduced, whether they are a side character, whether they are a main character, like they get some kind of background, and you really get to know this cast of characters. There's one character in particular that just kind of like tugged at my heartstrings. It's this old man named Fusagi, and we don't even have that many interactions with him, but like I, for some reason, am just like already attached to this old man. I'm gonna be tackling the next story tomorrow, and I'm gonna try doing it in my bed. I just want to try like different locations for annotating. I feel like you need a lot of space to annotate, honestly. Like, I was all over my desk. Like, my desk was a mess as I was annotating, so I just want to like challenge myself to try it in different locations, which I know sounds ridiculous. But tomorrow we will tackle the next story. The next story is called Husband and Wife, and I swear Fusagi better be making another appearance soon, or I'm gonna riot. I'm gonna be very upset. This just in, annotating in bed is so hard. I do not recommend it at all. The amount of like mess ups I have on this section of reading is really unfortunate. I kept trying to do like straight lines with the ruler. There's a built-in ruler that came with the tabs, and I keep using this to like underline, but as I was underlining in bed, this just like kept moving, and so all my lines are like just like all over the place. It's a mess. So I personally do not recommend annotating in bed. It did not work out for me. Maybe because I'm an amateur and I'm just like not skilled enough. Maybe if you are a pro annotator, it will work out for you. But for me, no thank you. So far, I like a hard surface. Even though my next location is going to be the couch, I'm going to see how I do on the couch. I feel like I have more room when I'm reading on the couch, whereas I don't have as much room to move around while I'm in bed. We'll see. I'll keep you guys updated on how the couch goes, how couch annotating goes. The second story in this book, my heart, oh my god, it literally sent me to Feelsville. Like, oh my god, I am in my feelings. The second story is much more about the character that I fell in love with in the first story, and that is Fusagi. I think that's how you say his name. We get a lot of information on his character and learn more about his wife and just the situation there, and it really just tugged at my heartstrings. I think it's because it reminded me a lot of my grandpa and something that he went through. I can't give details because I don't want to like spoil what's wrong with Fusagi and like what his story is, but the circumstances that he's under, I had a similar situation with my own grandfather, but a little bit different. I think I might do like a spoilery review on my second channel for this book because there are so many things that I just want to talk about that happen in this book, but it just like really tugged at my heartstrings, and I was so happy to like see Fusagi get a feature just because I wasn't sure if that's how this story would work. I didn't know if we would get like a story about each character that we were introduced to in the first story, but that seems to be where this book is heading, and I'm really appreciating that. I also feel like I'm enjoying this so much more now that I've kind of like shifted my focus, in that like it's not necessarily all about the time travel element. Like I kind of was expecting that to be a stronger element in the story. Obviously that is still a very impactful situation within the story, and it is why a lot of these characters are coming to the cafes, because they want to go back into the past for different reasons. But I feel like it's more so just about the human experience and how everybody is on different journeys and just exploring these people who are going through these hard things. And it feels like they're all on journeys to either get closure or to find peace in different situations. And I really love it. I don't think it's perfect by any means, but I do think it's like the perfect book for annotating, because it just brings up so many different scenarios, so many different situations, and really gets you thinking what you would do in that situation. I'm excited to get into the next story. I feel like I know who the next story is going to be about, and they're a very like hard surfaced character. Like when you talk to this character, like they give sass, they give you attitude, they are very blunt, and I'm very interested to kind of like get into the core of their character and learn more about them. Annotating on the couch was much easier than annotating in the bed. Still not my favorite place. I think I prefer annotating on a hard surface, but the tricky thing is that I don't always want to read while sitting at my desk or sitting at a table. Like there are times when I just want to like chill out on the couch or in bed, and like adding in annotating into the equation, it just like doesn't mix that well with the bed or the couch, even though it was much easier annotating on the couch. And I know that I'm making this much more of a dramatic deal than it needs to be, but like I'm just saying. Overall, I don't personally recommend the couch or the bed. So far, reading and annotating at my desk has been like the best spot. That's what I would recommend at this point. But the next section of reading, the last section of reading, I am going to be switching to my dining table, which I feel like will be a solid place to annotate for sure. I did run out of a few tabs, but I've just switched to using these solid ones. I just don't love the solid ones because a lot of these pages don't have like indents where you can like place the solid tabs easily. You basically have to place the solid tabs on either the top or the bottom to not cover any words. So that's an obstacle that I'm running into. It's not that big of a deal, but I also just like don't want to stack the tabs on the top and the bottom of the pages. Now my thoughts on the section that I just read. I just read the chapter called The Sisters, and it was so hard hitting. I was hit with so many emotions, and it's interesting because the character in The Sisters is a character that like I didn't really vibe with when they were first introduced, because they're just like this very hard character. Like they do not really care about other people's emotions around them. Like they are definitely not a people pleaser. They march to the beat of their own drum. They say whatever comes to their mind. They're very blunt. And I just was like not vibing that well to that personality type. I wasn't like writing them off completely because like I like unlikable characters. And I feel like this chapter just like really softened that character and just like made me understand her better. And I really enjoyed actually watching her process a really strong thing, and that strong thing is grief. In her chapter, she is dealing with grief, and because she is such a hard person, she definitely experiences grief in a way that is not normal, I would say. Like a lot of people will cry and break down, just let themselves feel that emotion, but for the most part, at the beginning of the story at least, she really is just kind of like pushing down her emotions, not letting herself myself process the situation and just kind of like pretend like it didn't happen. And then we finally get to this point where we see her just kind of like break down and feel everything. And I just like loved seeing that because I felt like she wasn't very humanized when we were first introduced to her. And I felt like that just made her feel more human and it made me feel something for her. And I really appreciated that in this book. I feel like she really needed this story to kind of humanize her and make me feel empathy towards her. I definitely wasn't expecting it to be as emotional of a chapter as it was, but it hit me hard. I truthfully feel like I'm leaning on a 5-star rating. That's not to say that I think the book is perfect, but like my enjoyment of it is a 5-star. Like I am enjoying it so much. Like I've loved each and every story. I feel like they're all just filled with so much heart and emotions and feelings, and I love books that are able to like get me to feel something, honestly. It does definitely have some structure problems, and I think if you go into this book expecting it to be, you know, this like very time travel focused book, you're gonna be a little bit disappointed. But because I like shifted my focus after reading the first story, I've really started to enjoy this book, and I feel like it's gonna be a 5-star rating, which is shocking to me. I was not expecting to love this as much as I did. Unless this last story is just like horrific, I really think I'm leaning towards a 5-star rating with this book. I feel like the last story in this book was actually being set up in the previous story, which I find really interesting, and I'm excited to see some of those ties from the last story come through in this final story. I will keep you guys updated. The next spot that I'll be reading is my dining room table, so let's get back into it. Before I tell you my thoughts on the last story and my overall thoughts on this book, though I will say 5 out of 5 stars, let me share my experience annotating this book and how I felt about it overall. I actually really ended up enjoying the annotating experience much more than I expected to, and dare I say, I grew a liking to the tabs. I feel like I realized with annotating that you almost grow a connection to the book because you're putting in so much effort in underlining things, really thinking and connecting with the text and engaging with the book that it just becomes this like very personal experience. Like I look at this book now and I have so much more fondness for it than I probably would have if I would have read it normally. Now that's not to say that I want to annotate every book ever that I read, especially because now I'm in my library era, I'm checking out books all the time, but I feel like it's something that I would love to do with books that I know that I'm going to love. Like I will probably continue annotating this series. I will definitely annotate the second and third book just because I feel like I know that I will love them. But I feel like overall annotating books can be a bit on the risky side of things because you just never know if you're going to actually like the book that you're annotating. Which, I mean, I feel like there's nothing wrong with annotating a book that you're not liking because I feel like there's a lot of thoughts that come to your mind when you're not enjoying a book, and maybe it could be a good time to like rage annotate. Annotate a book that you're hating and just rant your thoughts in the margins as you're reading the book. I feel like I still have a lot to learn when it comes to annotating. Something that stands out to me currently is my index. I feel like I need a little bit more guidance with my index. There were definitely things that I was tabbing that could be combined into one tab. One thing that comes to mind is plot points and important details. Those are two separate things that I was tabbing throughout this reading process, and I realized over time that those two things were pretty similar, and I could have just combined them into one color of tab. And then I also was tabbing my thoughts and theories, and I also tabbed conversation with the text, and I felt like those could be combined into one tab as well. So I definitely have some things to learn, and I definitely will take what I learned in this experience and carry it over with me to my next annotation project. I did in fact end up doing a drawing of a little mug. It just felt fitting for a book about coffee, a book about a cafe. Call me cliche, but I'll own it, okay? I am cliche, and this is proof of that. When it comes to the supplies, I want to talk about the things that worked for me, the things that didn't work for me, what I will probably keep using in the future. I was shocked to find that I grew an attachment to the tabs. I actually do really like tabs. I think that these were my favorite. I really enjoyed these. I would definitely use them again in the future. These I ended up being forced to use because I ran out of different colors from this, and these are just not my favorite. You can see the text under them when you place them down, but I just don't necessarily like the look of it. And these suckers I really do not like. I would never use those ever again. I don't like the way that they stick out. I don't like the way that they look visually. They just didn't work for me. I think I would give the pen another try, but I think overall I need something just a little bit thicker. I think I'm gonna try to go up a few more levels in terms of thickness. I definitely understand why this works for somebody, but I just think it's a little bit too light for me. This was my favorite thing, and I didn't even get to highlight that much throughout this process. Like, I just didn't end up highlighting as much as I was like underlining things, but I will be, in fact, buying different colors of this, of the Tombow, because it, like, changed my life. This was a complete game changer for me. Thank you, Plant-Based Bride, for this recommendation alone. Changed my life. Overall, I really enjoyed the process of annotating this book. I felt like I picked the perfect book to annotate because there were just so many things that were, like, discussion starters, and so I would recommend annotating this book if you ever want to try annotating a book. Now, I will say I don't think that this book is going to be for everybody. I personally really enjoyed it. I did have to shift my mindset and kind of engage with it in a different way than I was at the start of the book. But once I got over that obstacle, I really enjoyed this book. I felt like it had so much heart in it. Each story within this is super impactful. I feel like with each story it gets even more moving, and I love stories like that. I also love stories where each character gets a moment to shine. Each character has a lot of depth, and that is definitely the case with this book. Like, each character had their moment, had their story to share, and it just hit me so hard, and I freaking love this book. I ended up giving it a full-on 5 out of 5 stars. Now again, that's not to say this book is perfect. It definitely has its flaws, but for me, it was a perfect read in terms of entertainment and in terms of enjoyment. And I could sit here and be overly critical and give it a 4 out of 5 stars, but because of my overall enjoyment of what happened in this story, I can overlook those flaws and just give it a full-on 5 out of 5 stars in terms of entertainment. If you guys have read Before the Coffee Gets Cold, definitely let me know down below in the comments all your thoughts on it. I definitely think I'm going to do like a bit of a review of some sort. I don't know if it's going to be spoilery or not, but that will pop up over on my second channel, youtube.com/morereader. I'm bringing back that second channel, I guess, because I want to talk about this book. I want to hear from you guys down below in the comments. Do you annotate books? Do you have any annotation tips for me? Are you not an annotator? Are you against annotating? Let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments. But of course, let's just try to keep it respectful down below in the comments. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon, and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye.